Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sincerely grateful to the organizers for having invited me to represent the 27 million of Uzbekistani population, which is now victim to a despotic regime. I'm happy to speak here in front of you on behalf of the civil society of Uzbekistan. 2 years ago, I did not believe that I would come out of prison alive, and certainly wouldn't believe that I would be speaking at such a high-level forum on behalf of the civil society of Uzbekistan. My release from prison proved to our dictatorship, to our dictators, that the international community can change the decisions of the most vicious dictators. When I was arrested, my colleagues did not believe I would come out of prison alive, and I would like to thank you all for your active support, for working to set me free. And I would like to add, I would certainly like to emphasize that Amnesty International have been extremely kind and effective. The prison where I was incarcerated, I got letters every day, and this defeated, to a certain extent, my goalers, because they knew I was not alone. And the Frontline organization is another one. When I was 45 and I celebrated my 45th birthday in prison, flowers were delivered to me, and it was an absolute first in a women's prison. And the prison officials were forced to actually give those flowers to me, a dangerous state criminal. And now I'm undergoing treatment in France, helped by the International Human Rights Federation. And they have provided great conditions, very good conditions for me, for my daughter, for my granddaughter, to enable me to actually undergo this necessary treatment, medical treatment. And I'm very grateful to these international organizations. Very briefly about myself. I'm both daughter and granddaughter of so-called enemies of the people that fell victims to Stalin's reprisals in 1937. That was my grandfather, and my mother was the daughter of an enemy of the people, and she's now the mother of an enemy of the people. What concerns us is to raise the legal awareness amongst our population so that they believe that their rights and interests can be defended. When I was arrested after the Andijan events, riots, I was accused, I was charged. Although I'd only had one international award by then, to the tune of just $5,600, and they charged me with using those funds to incite riots, disorder in Andijan. and they demanded that I should give a witness statement, that I should testify against international human rights organizations, against my colleagues and comrades in arms. I refused, and so they added several other charges. So I was actually prosecuted under 18 articles of Uzbekistani legislation. So they demanded that I admit my guilt. And when I refused to do that, I was tortured, I was tormented. And I really, as I said earlier, I just did not believe I would come out of that prison alive. I was certain that they would kill me, they would murder me for fighting for democracy. Svetlana Karnaukhova, a policewoman, beat me up so severely, but then I was looked at, examined by a doctor, but the doctor didn't say anything. And then I spent months in isolation. I went on a hunger strike, but on the third day of my hunger strike, they force-fed me. I demanded to see the prosecutor, but they refused to meet my demand. And they put me like that in my isolation cell. I was hungry, and I had to stand in that posture. And then students were brought round, and I was put on display for them. And they told the students that whoever is going to fight the regime, this is what will happen to them. So I was exhibited like an animal in a zoo. And students looked at me, the students looked at me and smiled, and I felt horrible. So I spent a long time in an isolation cell, and they wanted me to write a plea to the president for mercy. They would not allow the other women prisoners to talk to me, and all those insults, all those torments and tortures. My gaolers were so confident that they would never have to be held liable for all that. And the only thing that gave me strength was your support. Even though most letters never got through to me, but nonetheless, relatives of other women prisoners, when they came to visit the women in prison, they kept saying, "Who is this Mutabar Tadjibayeva, so much talked about in every sort of international mass media service?" I apologize. I'm so nervous, but I'm so happy, so excited to be here, to be talking to you. My Paris doctor didn't want to let me come here, but I was convinced that once I've had this chance to talk to you about the sufferings of my people, to sort of unburden my soul, I will feel better, and it will be better for my Paris doctor. Talking about the Andijan events, as you can see them, The Uzbekistani government is now trying through all mass media outlets to they're trying to blame Mutabar Tadjibayeva for the deaths, for the death of about 1,000 people. And now I'm second time in Europe, abroad. The authorities don't want me back. Or, if I am back, they will have to arrest me. They accused me that on the 15th of May, when I was actually under house arrest, they allege that I was at the same time the leader of the anti-Jan riots. I would also like to add that I always, my dream was to have the support of international organizations, of the world community, that we would have support for our political prisoners. This is a disastrous situation in Uzbekistan. There's a huge unemployment, salaries are not paid, pensions are not paid, corruption is rife. I heard presentations yesterday and I became aware that probably this is the way I should do it as well. I should write. I have lots and lots of documents, so when I get back to France, I'm going to write a book under the title of The Captive of an Island of Torture. It will be a documentary. When I was awarded the international Martin Ennals award, that made the Uzbekistani authorities very angry. And then when I got another award from the United States, that really incensed them, because they think that their scorn, their contempt for the ordinary people is so great. They think that civil society is a joke, or rather, it's worse. They're worse than terrorists. So I would like to ask you, to appeal to you, to intensify your efforts to help our people to fight the dictatorship. I apologize if I wasn't very coherent or eloquent, but thank you for your patience and attention.